Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Well, it's Wednesday again, and you know I'm alternating between my friend Federico and Mike Michaels. Fed's on this week for Wednesday Watches. How are you doing, Fed?
I'm good. I was thinking, I don't quite look like Mike Michaels unless you put on a little bit of weight and lost some extra hair.
You know, it's like 2 for the price of 1. You're getting more this episode.
There you go.
Federico, you always get more. So, speaking of more, thanks for joining us for your U.S. East Coast evening and from far-flung locales for late at night or early in the morning. You guys are our troopers. Thank you so much. It's also our first 10 million episode. Our first episode is a 10 million view channel.
And by the way, congratulations, Tim. You've been here a lot longer than me. You deserve a handshake.
Thank you so much, Fed. And these guys made it possible. I've got to thank all of you for joining me 10 million times via my old iPhone camera, the SLR, the studio setup. Those of you who've stayed up to follow me as we've kind of stumbled our way through live shows, thank you so much.
Must be doing something right.
And to help us continue, please subscribe, because if you like what you see here, there's a lot more coming.
Absolutely.
And speaking of which, Fed, why don't you tell us about the new channel that we're launching?
All right. Yeah, this is big news, guys. I know a lot of you have been missing Tim's excellent hands-on, what we call the talking hands reviews on this channel. You know, we've made a clear decision to take them off this channel because we were releasing too many videos. However, they're coming back. We're making a second channel, which we will announce very, very shortly.
Yes.
Where you can catch all the product-based reviews in Tim's iconic style, just in a separate locale. But subscribe to this channel, so we'll tell you where to subscribe for the other channel.
And we promise not to carpet bomb you. Well, we do plan to activate 3 new videos a day. You're only going to be notified of 1, so double check. We're not going to spam your inbox.
Exactly.
Speaking of carpet bombing, SIHH versus Baselworld. It was the watch war of 2017.
Oh man, yeah.
Now, normally that would be just a metaphor and a pretext to compare the 2 major trade shows, which we love to do. But this year carried actual controversy. Okay. Maybe not the 2 minutes to midnight type stuff. I just threw in a heavy metal album cover because I could.
It is your show.
Motorhead's coming next. But Jean-Claude Biver, president of watch operations for LVMH and the interim CEO at the Zenith brand, did something that might have been a faux pas, bringing a big rented LVMH boat with floating red carpets and parking it right in front, across the road from the hotel Beau Rivage, where Richemont had paid to put up about 1/5 of the journalists attending SIHH.
Exactly. I mean, he was basically, you know, everybody was there anyway, so he figured, oh, I'll just make my own little event for a quarter or even 1/10 of the price. And the funny thing is, Tim, did you know Richemont rented that exact same boat the year before?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be a Richemont, like, after-hours den for people attending SIHH, and this year, LVMH, with their 3 primary brands, Hublot, Tag, and Zenith. How could I forget Zenith? They're my favorite of the 3. They rented out this boat and turned it into, like, a den of LVMH in the midst of Richemont.
They took their boat, they took their location, and they stole their thunder, is what they did.
In a big way. They had the mayor of Geneva cut the ribbon to open the Watch Week. They called it Geneva Watch Week. And as if that weren't enough of an appropriation, they hashtagged all their social media about this show that they created. They hashtagged it SIHH.
Yeah, what a way to piggyback. Even though, can I just say one thing? Everybody has different opinions on JCB, Jean-Claude Biver.
Yeah.
I love the guy. This is a really smart business move. Maybe breaking a little etiquette, but it's definitely a way to get great bang for your buck and get some attention.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the controversy alone probably paid for all of the expenses of renting out a boat and promoting it on social media. Bulgari, which is kind of the 4th brand, but operates as an independent house within LVMH, it was also there. It was at the Four Seasons Hotel. It actually had rented out a couple of lounges for its own week-long exhibition. So all of this, in turn, inspired Franco Cologni, who's basically like the patriarch emeritus of all the Richemont watch brands, to write an open pissy letter to Jean-Claude.
It was definitely a little passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
And it was an open letter posted on the FHH, the Fondation de la Horlogerie website, for everybody to read. It was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and basically they said you this is a breach of etiquette. You're not playing by the rules. The whole thing was, in my opinion, a bloviating mass of metaphors and, as Fed says, kind of passive-aggressive sentiment. It was definitely high horse kind of stuff, but the bottom line is, if you are going to crash Richemont's party in Geneva, this is definitely the effect you want.
And as we say in the social media world, shots fired.
Exactly. You ready to return, Richemont? So, okay, so from Jogbird in our chat box, too much drama, what about the watches? I'm glad you asked, because we're going to ask, since we just broached SIHH, let's take all the shows, we've seen them all now. Who put on the better show in 2017, Basel or SIHH, Fed?
I'm going to say they were both disappointing.
Really? Okay.
I mean, they were nothing super special, but I'm going to go with SIHH. Then again, full disclosure, I have worked for Richemont, so SIHH is in my heart. But I honestly am going to say SIHH.
That's okay. I'm the biggest JLC fanboy in the world, so what do you think I'm going to say? Now, I chose to attend SIHH this year. I had a choice to go to one or both, and I said, you know what? I did Basel last year. It's a big, brassy, heavy thing. I'm just going to go to SIHH. It's all watches, no parts, no tools, no jewelry. 32 exhibitors this year, up from 16 back in 2015. So all of the momentum is really behind this show. It's growing in very interesting ways, because a lot of the independent brands that you want to see, you know, the likes of Ressence, the likes of Moser, the likes of Haute Lance, smaller brands, Philippe Dufour was there, Kari Voutilainen showed up. This is the place you want to go if you're a super watch nerd.
And you know why that is? And this is going to sound a little... it's not going to sound very nice to our viewers, but I really think this matters. The fact that the public is not invited to SIHH, and that it is business only, and if you're there to talk watches, you're there to buy product, you're there to open new doors, you're there to close deals. And this is why brands are so much more enthusiastic about potentially joining SIHH, to where they don't have to, quote-unquote, waste their time. I know this sounds horrible to say to enthusiasts, but it makes more commercial sense.
And I'll also say this, a lot of the more interesting independents, or not necessarily small independents like Voutilainen or Essence or anything like that, but like companies like Audemars Piguet, companies that are owned by smaller groups. Not that PPR carrying is small, but the watch group within it is, with Ulysse Nardin and Gerard Perregaux, and those brands were back at SIHH this year. To me, it was the complete experience. The Palace, the independents at Basel, is still great. The AHCI exhibit at Basel is still great. But I was able to cover Basel not being there with all of the latest releases just as effectively as Hodinkey and A Blog to Watch, and I actually beat them using this program and press releases to several news announcements that they didn't publish until after we aired, and they were at the show. So what did I lose by not being there?
You mean you lost maybe a massive headache?
Yeah, I didn't get bronchitis this year, so there's that. I lost that. So, okay, guys, I got a question from Eddie Landsberg. What's on the table? Guys, I'm glad you asked.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm going to show you one right now, and Fed and I are going to do our wrist checks. This watch is actually outside the bounds of tonight's table theme, but this is the 2007 Glasuta Original Pano Tourbillon XL, somewhat ironically named because there is no basically panorama date, and that was the namesake of the Pano line. But what it does have is a beautiful white gold dial that looks remarkably like a New York black and white cookie, a filigree style flying tourbillon, a retrograde date, a power reserve scale, a 42mm white gold case. And although you can't see it to great effect on the close-up, it actually has twin diamond capstones for the tourbillon. So 35 synthetic rubies, but 2 real cut diamonds as the pivots for the tourbillon.
And this carried a retail of $127,000 US.
Yeah, that thing was a chunk of change back in the day, and it's not cheap, but if you're interested in buying it, it's on our website.
It is on our website.
Fed, what are you wearing tonight?
Well, tonight is a watch that kind of sits in my watch box a lot. I don't wear it too often, but I do love it.
Okay.
And it is my Eterna Kontiki World Time. I know everybody's going to complain that it's upside down, but we are going to fix that. And I'm wearing it on a mesh strap. It's just a simple GMT ETA 2893, I believe. ETA 2893, and it's a limited edition. but this is before Eterna got bought by the Chinese, which makes it so special for me.
It's a 2893 or it's a 2836. It's one of the two. So what we've got right here is my Jaeger LeCoultre Master Grand Memovox.
I love it.
I love this watch too, and it's appropriate enough because I've worn this to both the Basel and the SIHH shows over the last 2 years, and this thing will wake you up no matter what, even with earplugs, even when you've only gotten 1 hour of sleep thanks to a unseemly flight on Air Swiss. Not your fault, Air Swiss. I just had a difficult companion next to me. But the watch is an alarm. It's platinum. It's a perpetual calendar. At heart, it's an old 918 Memovox with an IWC module and a really heavy platinum case.
So I'm guessing Josh wasn't your partner next to you on the flight?
No, Josh would have been a welcome companion. Josh or Fed, one of them's going with me to Basel next year, guys. But for this year, I'm happy that we stayed here and held down the fort. The rest of the table tonight is Breitling watches. And Fed, why do I have Breitling watches here tonight?
Well, and actually, I got a few comments on this as well. I think you rightfully so, in my opinion, made a criticism on some new Breitling releases, and all of a sudden, people think you're a Breitling hater, which is certainly not true. So to show our support and to say that we love Breitling, for the most part, we have a selection of Breitling on the table.
I mean, here's the thing. Breitling is a company with too many models, making too many units, with advertising that, frankly, is about 10 to 15 years out of date, somewhat immature, no longer appealing to a more sophisticated luxury watch clientele. Quite frankly, too given to discounting, closeouts, and wholesale. I think they've damaged their brand. But as a watch enthusiast, because they have so many references currently and recently and historically, there's still a lot I love about Breitling. So you can put the business decisions aside and just ignore the references that you don't like if you're like me and find a lot to love. And I'm going to go over these later in the show, but we've got more.
Very well said. I mean, I love Breitling from an horological perspective, but I'm also kind of shaking my head at their recent business faux pas.
Yeah, and there are many. We could do a whole show, what's wrong with Breitling and how to fix it, and we might just do that next time Fed is on.
Sure, why not? But that doesn't mean we don't love them. Let's get
That's
that
right.
straight.
This is hard love, guys. We want them to succeed. So now, anyway, we've got highlights from the show we both agree was the best of 2017. Still plenty of mid-cycle stuff to come out mid-summer towards the end. We'll start to see pre-SIHH stuff in like October. So guys, the new model debuts have not ended. This is what we like so far. Okay. From my perspective, and this is one that I know Fed shares.
Oh, yeah.
The JLC Sector Dial Masters in steel were a huge highlight of both JLC and SIHH in general this January.
Tim, is not an exaggeration. I said SIHH wasn't spectacular, but with these models, I am truly in love.
Yeah.
In love. I will own one of these three this year. I whichever one I can get my hand on, I will buy one. I guarantee you guys that.
And the Master Control, basically the date three-hand watch that is the anchor of the collection, is a $5,700 Jaeger LeCoultre. We're now talking like certain pre-owned Breitling chronograph type money.
Sure.
Like this is a movement that, while mostly machine finished, does still feature some hand finishing, watchmaker assembly, watchmaker regulation. This is still partly a handmade watch in the JLC tradition, and you're getting it for less than $6,000 with a warranty.
And it's going to be truly limited, because even though it's not a limited edition, they are only making it for 1 year. And the thing that I'm not sure is it 1 year for the whole distribution or 1 year boutique only?
That's a great question. I believe it's all distribution. I think I've spoken to some of our friends at Govberg, and they're placing orders, which, by the way, guys, if you want to get one, you get one from Govberg. But the bottom line is that all of these references, all three of them, retail for under $10,000, and that was a huge score. The right watch at the right time, but I think they have the style to succeed in any era, good times or lean.
Absolutely.
So moving forward with my preferences, and I want to say that the Geographic, to me, because I was traveling when I first saw this collection, the Geographic spoke most to me, but I think most people are going to say the chronograph or the three-hand time aesthetically were the winners. I loved the Moser & C Heritage Perpetual. This is a watch that just had so much to its credit. Unless you need a sports watch, this really is the total package. So the Heritage Perpetual, it's taken their They're HM 801 movement, so you've got 7 days of power reserve, manually wound. Everything you love about Moser watchmaking in terms of technology, finish, attention to detail. Now take the cleanest perpetual calendar display in the business.
Ever.
Yeah, combine it with a moon phase, and by the way, this perpetual calendar can be set forward and backwards. Combine it with a beautiful moon phase, a Grand Faux enamel dial, a 42mm white gold case with a Flinke engraved and enameled case band. We're getting into a dessert so rich that even I, as a cyclist, permanently like sugar-starved, almost can't conscience.
I really do adore it. The only thing, if I have to change one small thing,
Sure.
I love their new Fume dials.
Okay.
Slap a Fume on that, and I'd be traveling to Switzerland right now with like a credit card and a whole bunch of debt.
Yeah,
to
honestly,
get one of these.
I know exactly what he means. There are some watches where you're just like, this is so perfect, I've got to start Googling the value of redundant organs. This is almost there for Fed.
Pancreas.
And, kidney. And so you've got a watch that is not afraid to be vintage inspired without being a slavish, line for line, millimeter for millimeter tribute watch. So I like that. Being vintage inspired without being a copy is what you get when you think Shelby Cobra and you draw a Dodge Viper. Whereas trying to be too literal is where you think 1930s beach cruiser and you wind up with a PT Cruiser.
Oh my God, you went there, didn't you?
I did. That was rough, and I'm sorry. Fiat Chrysler, feel the burn. But this is a great watch. I mean, it's got color, it's got character, it's got métier d'art, it's got watchmaking, it's got everything you want.
And
it's
Moser,
not cheap, but it's beautiful.
Not cheap, but Moser does this really well. I mean, has Moser ever come out with any watch? And Moser's come out with a ton of watches which are simple, very simple. But have you ever seen a Moser and said, that's boring?
No.
Never.
No, they usually manage to infuse personality even in the simple watches, those Fume dials that you mentioned.
And I think it's because they're run by young guys. Edouard Mélin is in his early 30s.
Yeah, I look at him and he looks my age. And
Exactly.
I'm thinking that's way too young to be running a watch brand.
So it's just, I think it's the fact that they're always avant-garde, they're always kind of looking to the future.
They're not afraid to piss people off with their marketing.
And we'll talk about that more in my segment, actually.
That is the Moser gift hat from SIHH this year. I had to beg for that.
It was really hard to get, by the way.
Yeah, people who are saying it's borderline offensive, it's supposed to be avant-garde provocative. It is firmly tongue-in-cheek. Trust me, I was there to see Edouard Mélin in the video featuring that hat. It was tongue-in-cheek, trust me. It was tongue-in-cheek, and I don't think we can reproduce it on YouTube. Moser's certainly not offering it. So, Fed, other stuff that I liked included the IWC Da Vinci Perpetual Calendar Chrono for two reasons. First, real bold to build the whole SIHH. IWC does one model line per year at SIHH. Yeah. They revive one model line. I thought the Da Vinci would be like a toss in mid-year when they're reviving the Ingenieur or something.
Well, because it's so weak.
Yeah, it's a nerd watch, like a hardcore nerd watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys think, sorry to interrupt, but if you guys think the Aqua Timer is soft, the Da Vinci is much softer than the Aqua Timer in terms of sales numbers.
Yeah, this would be like Rolex saying all of this year and Basel is nothing but Cellini. It's so far from their commercial center of gravity. I love the fact that they showed real soul, and trust me, this is corporate soul rendered in steel, because when you take a watch that's important because of what it said about IWC coming out of the quartz crisis, when the first modern day Da Vinci Perpetual Calendar chronograph came out in 1985. It debuted the Kurt Claus Perpetual Calendar module, which is so IWC. It was a firm recapitulation of the company's commitment to mechanical watchmaking, and it was a massive statement complication in an era when these were still rare, and there was still doubt about the survival of the mechanical watch. So to come back and to pay tribute to that original Perpetual Calendar Chrono 3750 reference, not just with a new Perpetual Calendar Chrono, not just given the whole year over to the Da Vinci, but to do it with hinge lugs.
This is a modern reissue done extremely well. And actually, what I hope this does is I hope it brings the originals a little further down in price, because right now you can get a steel Perpetual Chrono for under 10.
I got to say, the original reference 3750 with the plexiglass bubble crystal, and it's got a wonderful case size right around 37, 38 millimeters. Super duper case, super duper hinge lugs, so much personality, and as Fed mentioned, these are really quite accessible perpetual calendar chronographs.
Yeah, they really are.
So congratulations, IWC, for having big brass ones to devote the whole new model year to a niche line, like the niche line of niche lines that they've got.
I gotta give them the golf clap.
Yeah, the golf clap, and I'm even willing to give them like a hoot and a holler, American style, because they gave up a lot of potential profit by not just saying, you know what, it's been a while since we redid the Ingenieur. This year is the year of the Ingenieur.
Or it's the year of the Portuguese.
Yeah,
let's sell some watches.
Well, let's do a mid-cycle refresh of the 2015 Portuguese. It's basically just them saying, look, this is part of our heart and soul. We're willing to give up a year of easy profits to launch a watch that is so niche, and I love that. Congratulations, guys. Stealing the show, in my opinion, was MB&F with their HM7 Aquapod. It's not a dive watch, but they said it is safe for swimming. What it is a crazy styled, jellyfish mechanoid for your wrist. It's somewhere between like Deep Space Nine and a jellyfish, but this thing was just so cool, and everyone was talking about it. It stole the show. There's no question.
It's one of those things which I would love to own, but I will never wear that watch because I can never tell the time. But it is something that's like, that's why they call their creations horological machines,
yeah,
right?
It is that. It's not necessarily a watch.
It's an horological machine. It's something beautiful to put on your desk maybe and take a look at. But as a watch, I don't know. It's a little tough even for me, man.
I could pull it off. Honestly, I'm on a premium luxury show wearing sunglasses upside down.
There you go.
I could pull this off. This is a fun watch. This is a smile watch. It's not going to fit underneath any shirt cuffs. It's about the size of like
a dessert plate.
Yeah, honestly, the thing's about the size of, what can I compare it to? Like a chlorine tablet that you throw in your pool. It's pretty darn big. It's almost a hockey puck, but it's light. So you can wear it. Scrolling minutes, scrolling hours, central tourbillon, 3-day power reserve, automatic winding, thanks to a tentacle winding mass, and it is literally that. So that was the best in show. Fed, tell me, what were your highlights of SIHH?
Well, mine were a little bit more simple. I was kind of focusing more on things I would personally like and to personally wear, except for the first pick.
Okay, the first pick's wacky.
The first pick is really wacky, and it's not so much about the watch, but more for what it stands for. I love the Swiss Mad watch. This is the H. Moser watch, literally made out of cheese and with some, I think, carbourethane material.
It won't go bad.
It won't go bad. And this is H. Moser's statement to go Swiss made, because simply enough, they do not think that the 60% rule, 60% of the value of a watch, needs to be Swiss for it to be considered Swiss made. So Moser dropped the Swiss made moniker, came out with this crazy watch, even though they only made one. But I think it just shows the intentions of a brand. So it's not so much about the watch, it's more about the statement. And I loved it.
And here's where they're coming from. 90 to 95% of their watches are made in Switzerland, and they like to say for the most part it's the strap that's not made in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So there's a 2017 rule that's, I guess by the standards of like Fossil Group draconian, where they're saying, you know what, now it can't be 50% of the value of the watch made in Switzerland to feature the Swiss made label, it must be 60. So Moser is sitting there saying, wow, way to rein them in.
And you know what? And I agree, it's not enough, but I don't think it's even the Fossil Group brands or the low-end Richemont brands that are the culprits here. I think it's a lot of these, like, small micro-label, almost independents.
Yeah.
I don't want to call any of them out, but I'm sure you guys, these $1,000 watches, which are Swiss-made.
Yeah.
There's one factory in China that literally makes the cases for all these brands.
Oh, yeah, and that factory is hopping right now. Let's say this.
Steinhardt. Christopher Ward.
Basically, consider brands like 7 Friday, but with less integrity. 7 Friday is very open about what it's doing and where its watches and where its parts come from.
Miyota's, it's fine.
There are many that are not that open, not that upfront, and that is the target of this 2017 Swiss-made law. Of course, Moser bucking that trend, building a watch that's so Swiss, it's literally made out of cheese.
And here's the thing. I have no problem with these brands that I just kind of made fun of a little bit. I don't think they should be able to be called Swiss made. When your crystal, your strap, your
Clasps,
case,
pin
your
buckles.
clasp, it's all Chinese.
Yeah.
All of it. The movement Swiss. And the assembly is probably in Switzerland, and you're paying your worker a very high hourly rate, so you qualify.
And we don't mean to rag on China. There are some great things that are made in China. Standard of the world craftsmanship in certain fields. But the sub $1,000 watch market is not one of them. So that's what we're talking about. We're not slating China generally. We're just saying when a Swiss watch is labeled Swiss and made in China, made for $30 and sold for $1,000, somewhere in there's a lack of integrity. And it's usually on the part of the European marketers and the sales reps who are selling these things as Swiss. It's not the people fabricating them.
Exactly. Well said. Then the second one, well, I mean, you kind of stole my thunder.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Fed. Sector dial JLC.
Sector dial JLC. Listen, we love it so much, we have to talk about it twice.
We'll have them on. I'm going to have them on my Govberg. You know, I own a couple of YouTube channels now. I'm going to have like actual showcases in that weird robotic style I do on Govberg for the brands. They're going to be sending me some to do reviews and showcases. So
Stick around.
Yeah, stick around for that. But Fed, here's one that is so Federico.
This is very Federico, and you know what? I know people are going to complain about this one. I know people are going to call me biased and maybe a little foolhardy.
You don't forget where you came from.
Well, yeah, and I love every brand that I work for. I love the Piaget Polo DLC. Yes, guys, I know it looks like a Nautilus. Yes, guys, I know it looks like an Aquanaut. But I'm not lying when I say it's the exact same quality and it's half the price. This is one more time. This is me liking the statement. It's Piaget telling Patek Philippe, yeah, we just showed the whole world that there's no reason the Nautilus should be $24,000.
Yeah, and I think it's reasonable to say that since we first saw the Polo S in round about October of last year, Piaget has heard the derisive cheers, and they've said basically, let's turn the jeers into cheers. Make it a little bit more unique with ADLC bezels.
Exactly.
It's got a different look, and it's really come into its own stylistically a bit more.
I agree, and I'm going to go back to the statement. For all you guys that say, yeah, but it's nothing but a Nautilus clone, turn your thinking around and say, well, if the quality is the same, which I assure you, it very much is, why is the Nautilus over 2 times the price? Yeah. Literally over 2 times the price. This is a
$12,000 watch with a manufacture movement constructed all in-house. It's made by a watchmaker. It's hand-assembled. This is a good watch. I think you could say it's a $24,000 look for a $12,000 price with mechanical integrity.
And if you go with the simple steel, it's $98.50.
I will say this. I have no idea where Piaget got the idea for those black highlights on the new Polo S ADLC. Maybe they should ask their corporate ambassador, Ryan Reynolds. I bet he knows.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was his idea, don't you?
Yeah, I have no idea where those black highlights came from. Totally original.
Well, Piaget finally getting with the times.
Suddenly the hip brand, Piaget. You guys, leading the box office. But from the hit parade to perhaps the Basel leftovers, I've got some selections. And for me, a watch that I wish I had seen, this is one of those wish I went to Basel type watches. It's actually the Meistersinger Saltura Meta X diver. Guys, this is a jump hour diver for about $3,200 US.
Which is funny because a few weeks ago, I said I wish there were more inexpensive jump hours.
Yeah,
remember that?
I do.
Unfortunately, this is not one that tickles my fancy.
You're not into this?
I mean, I think it's cool as a concept, and I think you get the complication for a great price. Just not into that whole scalloped look of the bezel.
Okay.
It's not for me, but I will recommend it for someone who's looking for a jump hour.
Now, there are a couple of dial variants here, so maybe Fed can find his soulmate. There are a few he might not have seen. What I really like about this watch is, first of all, interesting concept. Second of all, good execution. It's got a great series of black and blue dials that I absolutely love. 43 millimeters, good size for a dive watch without being overpowering. $3,200 on a strap. And here's the thing. The strap, although calfskin, is being advertised as water resistant, so you can wear the leather strap in the water.
I don't believe that for a second, though.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the you can use the pushers underwater of strap construction. Like, no, you can't use the pushers underwater on all those chronographs that are advised as safe, but you also can't wear the leather strap. I will say this, though, it's rubberized, so it's probably more resistant to moisture.
Yeah, that I can see, but I don't know if any leather treatment, even if you go non-calf, you go maybe shell cordovan, horse leather, which is supposedly much tougher. But even that, after maybe 7 or 8 times in the pool, it's no good.
Guys, don't believe the hype. It's a really nice strap, but if you want to take this one in the water, put it on a textile or get it on the bracelet.
Or maybe they'll make me eat my words. I have no idea. It could be true. I'm just, from my experience.
Meister Singer, you guys, you're in like Munster. Send us something to Hollywood, Florida from Munster. Address it to either me or Fed. Tell us to jump in. We've got great weather down here in Miami. April weather in Miami is beach weather. We're cleaning up Hollywood Beach if you guys want to join us locally. We're inviting our friends and family to our Hollywood Beach cleanup. Meister Singer, send us a watch. We'll test it in salt that day and give you a report back.
Absolutely.
So this was a favorite of mine, and I think it's well priced. ETA 2824 or Salida SW200, they're using both.
I kind of wish they'd stick to one or the other. I want to know. It just bothers me when I don't know.
I would be tempted to pop the case back open while the sales rep's not looking. But a nice independent brand with a fair price. Now, Parmigiani Fleurier, these guys at SIHH had a watch that to me felt like, we were talking about the value of the Piaget Polo S relative to like an Aquanaut. The Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda 1950 in steel to me felt like a $20,000 watch in a sub 10,000 US price. 9,600 US. Micro rotor, caliber 702, I believe, PF 702. Manufacture movement, handmade, watchmaker assembled and regulated. All of this in a 40 millimeter by 8 millimeter thick, ultra thin automatic steel case.
A fantastic watch. And can I say something? This is very unintellectual, but I've asked a lot of people in my days in the watch industry, what do you think of Parmigiani? What don't you like about them if you have to pick something? It's not the funky case designs. It's not the pricing. It's not the calibers. Everybody's main complaint is the name. Parmigiani.
What do they sound like? It sounds like food?
That's
or it sounds
literally
Italian?
what everybody tells me is it sounds like the cheese. And I'm like, really, guys? We're talking $20,000 watches and the name is what... But it's true. For some reason, people just can't get behind that name.
Well, thank God there are no watches made in Hamburg.
Oh, my God.
I mean, or Frankfurt. What would we do? Guys...
Well, Sid is Frankfurt.
That's true. My bad. Well, put it this way. You're never going to confuse that with a Frankfurter. But I will say this. They're both heavyweights. Here's the thing about the Tonda 1950 in steel. This is a fantastic watch that deserves to be right up there with the best from Gerard Perregaux, Jaeger LeCoultre, Glasuta Original, some of the better Zenith references. I really feel like this thing even warrants comparison to Vacheron Constantin. At the limit, the finish is not going to be Geneva Hallmark, but I feel like having held a prototype and inspected it at close range, you really do get, I'm going to say 80%
of that feel, right?
Yeah, of the finish to the eye. Not under the 10 power loop, but to the eye. You're getting 80% of a Vacheron finish on this movement. It's very good. It's a compelling package, and I know I had some colleagues in the media with me. Everyone was commenting on this watch. Guys, it deserves your consideration.
And who doesn't love a good micro rotor?
Micro rotors are sexy, and this one's 2.6 millimeters, which is right there with the Patek 240. So, again, high horology pedigree in appearance, in function, and in fact.
But
on
not
the
in
wrist,
price.
No, not in price. $9,600 US, and they're not cutting costs. It comes on a gator strap. It comes with a full folding buckle, not a pin buckle. Really impressive product to me. I'll also say this, since we're talking about watches made in a place where they, well, frankly, have food names. If Parmigiani's problematic, Meister Singer, those guys are in Munster.
Yeah, like the cheese, right?
Yeah, wouldn't want to cut the cheese. But the bottom line is
we just went there live on air.
We did. Guys, I'm sorry, but that like IQ equivalent of this show is just like dropping. Before we delve into the realm of like the Swatch Bunny Sutra, let me talk about kind of a topic that flows from the collection on the table tonight. Guys, you know we ragged on Breitling economically and from a business model perspective. So you guys ask, do I like any Breitlings? I like a lot of Breitlings, and I've got some of them here on the table because as many Breitlings as there are, I was able to just find some around the shop. So first, let me mention that if you're out there and you're a purist and nothing Breitling's made in the last 30 years or maybe ever under the Snyder family appeals to you, the Navitimer reference 806, the original Navitimer, presents one of the great puzzles in the vintage market because you can still buy and sell these all day with a Venus 178 caliber from the early 60s, late 50s for like under $4,000.
It's getting a little hard, but yeah, you're right.
I mean, under 5,000, you've got your pick of the litter. Under 4,000, you can still find them, and I don't mean in like third world countries with like hand-drawn images. I mean like real like Belgium, Germany, Switzerland.
You mean not like a bright colored dial from the Philippines?
I mean not like a watch from the middle of like a war zone. Yeah, you can buy these all day long for $4,000, and I don't think they should cost more. I don't think any watch should cost more. I want watches to be accessible. I want enthusiasts to buy them, not speculators. I just think that given the blogging culture that seems to and the auction culture and the hype that seems to swirl around vintage, everything from Universal Genève to Hoyer now to even Zodiac,
Favre Luba, Nevada Grenshin.
Like stuff that frankly just, should never have been bid up to the level of investment but enjoyed by enthusiasts who love them for what they are. I'm shocked that the original Navitimer has never caught fire.
Yeah, how is the original Navitimer never caught fire, but Waltham chronographs are going for $3,000 on eBay?
You can spend 5 figures on a Nina Rint Universal Genève, Tricompax. Why?
Well, the Ben Clymer tax.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Hodinkee phenomenon, which is unfortunate because, quite frankly, I mean, those guys are dealers now. But
yeah, have you seen? Okay,
they're advertising a huge story breaking tomorrow, which I'm like 99% sure means they'll have something to sell you tomorrow.
Well, I don't want to talk smack, but have you seen some of their prices in their vintage store, like the ridiculous pricing?
So there's a Hodinkee tax too.
Well, yeah, and here's my favorite thing: the Horween straps, which are made in Chicago by the Horween Leather Company, which are the same straps Nomos sells. That Vempe, if you buy the Nomos version, you can buy them at Vempe for $100. The exact same thing. Hodinkee's charging $175.
Yeah, you can buy it from a 5-star like nomenclatura dealer for substantially less than
there's some. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's moving along.
Yeah, I don't want to get too negative, guys, because I'm here to be positive on Breitling, and I guess I'd like to talk about some of the Breitling models that I really like.
You've been talking about this one all day, by the way.
Okay, so this is a watch I like a great deal. Now, in the last 3 model years, we've seen some interesting things done in the Galactic line. Now, this is the Galactic Unitime Sleek T. 2 things I like about it. One, it's a direct reference to the 1950s reference 1260, the Felsa-powered World Time, which actually featured the same type of dial. So this is Breitling saying, yes, we care about our heritage, we care about our history. The case profile is big, guys. No two ways about it. 44 millimeters is not a vintage size, but it's not trying to be a vintage tribute watch. It's supposed to be a reference to the history of the company.
Yeah, it's an homage to the original model.
Exactly. Like I said, Dodge Viper, not PT Cruiser. What you've got here is a very interesting use of tungsten. Tungsten carbide, super tough, super scratch resistant, but in this case, it's polished in a fashion that you don't really see on the Omega and Oris watches that are also using tungsten. And in person, it's got a great gray quality to it. Titanium, when you shine it up, looks like steel. Tungsten, when you shine it up, looks like a really cool high-tech two-tone. So I love the movement. It's a version of the B01 that's actually the first non-chronograph application of the B01. It's called the B35. I love the use of tungsten in juxtaposition to steel. I love the historical reference. The watch is big, but it's not overbearing, and it works great on a strap.
And actually, I know we took off the price tag, but relatively, what can you pick one of these up for roughly?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm not a market guy. I'm not a sales guy, and I take pride in the fact that I have no idea what anything costs.
But inexpensive for a World Time, that's for sure.
Yeah, I want to say that watch is probably, I don't know. I have no idea, guys.
I'm going to guess under 6.
That's where I don't feign ignorance but claim it with pride. I'm not a salesman. Other watches I love, the early 2000s Breitling Cosmonaut. Now, this is a late model watch in a gorgeous case. When you're talking around 41 millimeters with a beautiful, Scott Carpenter-inspired 24-hour dial. You've got the classic Tricompax chronograph layout with the early 60s-inspired silver on black. And you've got that classic slide rule, so you can fight with your friends and their iPhones and actually outpace them when you're doing a dinner tip. But the 24-hour dial, to me, as a former military guy, makes this watch stylish and practical. I love the fact that Breitling still makes watches like this. Cosmonaut's still in the catalog in a different form, but this was a great edition of it in a very wearable case. early 2000s to early 2010s they made that watch.
A little word of warning, though. I have sold this to a few customers previously, and it does take a little getting used to reading a 24-hour dial. It was made this way because in space, a lot of people couldn't really realize when it was AM or PM. So they have the 24-hour dial, which does take a little getting used to if you're more of a traditional watch guy. But after a couple of weeks, it should be no problem, and it'll become second nature, I think.
And, I'll also say that it's just a beautiful watch, and if you're that guy who wants to be different, you don't buy the Breitling Chronomat these days, you don't buy the Super Ocean Heritage, you buy a Navitimer. And if you're the guy who wants to be different squared, you buy a Cosmonaut.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense.
And it's a very faithful tribute to the old reference 809, the first Cosmonaut. Now, Montbriand is a reference to the old Breitling factory in La Chaux-de-Fonds before it moved to Grenchen under the Snyders. And, this is a Montbriand de Tora. It's got a lot going on, so it's not for everyone, and at 43 millimeters, some will say too large for me, but the detailing of the dial is delicate, thoughtful, sensitive, and you get a chronograph with a unique appearance, the heritage of the Breitling slide rule, a full calendar, COSC certification, and a really nice strap clasp combination. It's a lot of watch for the money.
And that almost bullseye chocolate shiny dial. I mean, what personality? What personality, and it matches the strap beautifully. I think this is shocking even from 20 feet away when you see this on somebody's wrist.
Yeah, this is a really nice watch, and Fed's right about one thing. The sunburst, bronze, brown, really just kind of explode in the sun. So it's a watch that's got presence indoors, but is just scintillating outdoors. Now, guys, no secrets here. I am a defender of premium quartz. I'm an enthusiast of the Breitling quartz calibers. B50 and B55 need some more cooking. They've had some battery issues, but the traditional aerospace, and this is actually a Generation 5 aerospace, there have been 6 of them now with the Aerospace Evo. This is a watch that's got everything from an electronic minute repeater to a backlight to a dual time to a countdown timer to a traditional alarm. It's got a chronograph. It's got NVG compatibility mode. It's a lot, and it's got a dive bezel, 100-meter water resistance. It's 42 millimeters. I mean, guys, 100-meter water resistance and dive capable plus all of those functions. This is what a pilot's watch looks like today. It doesn't look like a Rolex GMT. It doesn't look like an IWC Big Pilot. It's something that a pro would actually wear on his wrist and count on.
And it's titanium, so it's extremely light. And this is super quartz, right? So it's thermal compensated?
Thermal compensated. It's a quartz chronometer. Breitling's pretty much the only company that does that these days.
Chopard, maybe? With the Monaco Historique?
I'm not sure if they make a quartz chronometer. It's possible.
I'm going to Google that.
We need to check that one.
We need to check that one. I need to catch you off guard. I just remember a release like 5 or 6 years ago, but I'm not sure.
It's entirely possible. Rolex used to certify all of the Oyster Quartz chronometers. The standards have changed since then, so it's actually harder to do today. But I love the Breitling Aerospace in all its forms, and I love it when it's a wearable size on my tiny wrist. So 42 millimeter watch, even lighter for the titanium. And finally, probably my favorite line of all the watches Breitling sells. I don't have the Transocean Chronograph 1461 4-year calendar here tonight. That would be my favorite member of the Transocean line. But this is a beautiful B01 powered Transocean chronograph. 43 millimeters means, again, it's more vintage inspired than truly vintage, but it's a great homage to the old caliber or reference 761s. It's a beautiful watch. It's a fun watch. It's got a great combination of a white metal and a black dial in this instance. And it's one of the very few cases where you actually get to see a Breitling movement. Display case back. You can see the B01 in there. Column wheel vertical clutch. Some folks were commenting on the show I did the other day that the early B01s were grenades. That's absolutely true. The early B01s had some issues, but they also inspired Breitling to up their warranty game in a very big way with the 5-year warranty. And I can tell you that even Rolex's 4130, the Daytona movement, had some big problems from 2000 to 2002. Breitling worked through its troubles just as quickly as Rolex did. And unlike Rolex, Breitling threw a big warranty on it to show that they backed the product. So I love it. Column wheel vertical clutch, 3-day power reserve, automatic winding, and a chronometer. I love the Transoceans. So guys, thank you so much. We're going to answer some of your questions now, which is great because that's always been part of our show. I'm going to let Fed take it away. Fed, do you see any questions in here that you'd like to throw out there?
Let's see. Transocean is cool. Well, Transocean or Speedy Pro? Tim, what do you think of this?
Transocean or Speedy Pro? Well, here's the thing.
The classic Moonwatch, I think. They're
Classic
referring
Moon.
to.
I'm going to say, here's the thing, guys. I'm unconventional. I'm an iconoclast. So obviously, the Speedy being the icon, I would go with the Transocean 1461 on a leather strap. A black dial, steel case. That's a $10,000 watch that gives you basically a perpetual calendar. That's a chronometer. That's a chronograph. That's durable as heck because it's based on a tough as nails ETA caliber. It's not that the Lemania caliber in the Moonwatch isn't tough, but for me, it's the kind of thing where I don't just not want to have the watch everyone has. That's not a reason to not buy something.
Sure, and I'm going to say, if I can only have one,
Yeah.
I'm going Transocean.
Transocean.
If I could have a collection, I'd put the Speedy in there.
Okay. Guys, that's a great way to take it because the Speedy is a wonderful watch to have in your collection, but I'm kind of a wacky guy, and this is a weird case where, speaking of cases, the case size is not that different. A current Speedy Pro, like a current production Speedy Pro on the robust bracelet they come with these days, wears about the same as a 43mm Transocean on a strap. The Speedy Pro 42, the Transocean 43, add the bracelet to the Speedy, and they actually wear quite similar.
That's true, actually. I didn't even think of it that way.
Robert Conquest is asking, Fed, what are your views on the new Rolex Sea Dweller?
I think I've made my views pretty clear, but you may have missed the couple of times I've talked about it on the show. I really dislike it.
Not a fan.
I love the red text, but I don't like the 43mm size. I don't like the Cyclops on a Sea Dweller. I wish they would have taken the Sea Dweller 4000
Yes.
and just put the red text on that. That would have been perfect. But this is just my humble opinion. I know a lot of guys love the Sea Dweller. Personally, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass on this one.
Okay, Fed, coming down hard. That's your 43mm Sea Dweller, the 50th anniversary watch that came out this year. A couple of quick hits. Seiko Rebel saying, Tim, please talk about ceramic cases durability. I'll say this about ceramic cases. It suits certain watches better than others. I've seen broken Gray Side of the Moons, but they're rare. I've seen broken Panerai Luminor style cases. Now those are more common. I would say, in general, you want to avoid anything like the straight lugs with right angle breaks against the case.
Yeah.
So you want to avoid those stress risers because that's where the cases fracture. The reason you see few fractures with, for instance, like a PAM 292 Ceramica is because they kept the wire lugs metal, and the case itself has no acute or right angle breaks between two planes of ceramic where a crack can form and fracture the case. It's going to be very case dependent.
And that's an expensive repair, a new ceramic case, because you can't reattach it. It's a new case.
4 figures.
Yeah, 4 figures.
So that's how I feel about that. JBO Surf saying, hey, Tim, don't forget to mention the H. Moser Pioneer in steel. This is a fact. This year, the Pioneer is available in steel with their signature Fume dial. Like Fed says, even when they make a simple watch, it's never a boring watch.
Absolutely. Personally, I would have loved them to have remained 100% noble metal.
Yes.
But nowadays you need to make a steel watch to sell the units, right?
I think so. I also think that on its own merits, this is a great way to get someone who might have been Moser curious to make a Moser commitment. And I think that's a great thing. It's a gateway watch that's not a cheapened version of what the brand builds. So note from Hexty Vision saying Breitling, the Super Ocean Heritage is great too. That's a fact.
Yeah, sure.
I like the new Super Ocean Heritage 42, and I like the regular Super Ocean 42. For me, $3,400 US for a Super Ocean 42 on a rubber strap is a great deal in a chronometer grade diving watch from a big brand.
Hell of a lot less if you buy pre-owned.
That's a fact. I have to say that there's value there, whether you buy it new or pre-owned. You're not going to lose, even if you lost the whole value of it buying it new. You get a warranty, and it's $3,400. You'll take a bigger hit on that. I mean, you'll buy a precious metal Rolex and take a bigger hit than that.
Oh, that's for sure.
Even on a Rolex. Question from Eddie Landsberg: Chronospace versus Aerospace. Eddie, I like the Aerospace a lot more. It's a purer expression of the Super Quartz. It's not trying to be all things to all people. The weird combination of analog, traditional watch design and quartz integration for me on the Chronospace doesn't feel right. So definitely Aerospace for me. What do you think of the new Ingenieur line? 4 new Ingenieur watches came out. I don't know if you've seen them, Ingenieur and Ingenieur Sport.
I have seen them. I own an Ingenieur. I own the vintage collection Ingenieur. Everybody knows I love the line. I don't love these new sharp lugs and this bigger bezel. It doesn't feel IWC to me. I think it'll grow on me. Honestly, I think as time goes on, I'll like it more. But as of right now, I don't know, man.
Okay, so let's end up with 2 questions from the field. I'm going to take Rational Pragmatist, longtime viewer of the shows. What do you think of Rolex putting rubber straps on a Daytona?
Ooh.
I think this is a clear case, along with last year's 116-500 LN, of Rolex trying to eke out just one more year from their investment in that first-generation 6-digit Daytona. I feel like if they wanted to get more money out of their breadwinner without fundamentally changing anything, put it on a rubber strap and create some buzz, and try to do it on a high margin watch like one of the precious metal cases, because relative to what it costs to make, it sells for a lot more and makes them a much bigger profit than the steel. Also,
Margin's much bigger.
yeah. Traditionally, the gold watches have been a slow seller in the Daytona line, so it's also a way to give a shot in the arm, possibly to Rolex's investment in stocks of gold. If they had gold that they needed to move, probably no easier way to move it than in a gold rubber strap Daytona. Every other model line, you're going to see a lower take rate on precious metal than with the Daytona. I think this is Rolex trying to use up some stocks of gold and also add life to that first generation 4130 caliber Daytona. It's been 17 years, guys. Someday Rolex is going to design that watch.
That's
just
very
not now.
insightful. It's a very insightful take, especially when it comes to gold, because they own a ton of it. But they have their own foundry, so
That's a
we
fact.
know they've stockpiled.
They have stocks of gold. So Fed, take it away. This is from Julian Boaz. Fed, what's your next panorama? Fed, take us home.
Oh man, guys, don't put me on the spot like that. I don't know. I don't know what my next watch is going to be. I'm just going to wake up one day and kind of get it. I don't know. It's gonna be. I'll tell you this. It's gonna be. If I could have it my way, it would be the PAM 50, the 1950 case with the original ETA movement. But we're talking around $20,000. So
It was a PAM 127, I want to say.
it is the PAM 127.
Yeah, that was a great watch. Said 1950 right on the dial, so you know exactly what it is.
Oh man,
That's a watch with heart.
people ask me all the time. I really don't know until I pull out my debit card and I go up to our boss upstairs and I say, I'm buying it. I really have no idea.
Okay, well there you have it from Fed. He has no idea. Me, I could tell you my next 3 watches, but that's a topic for another episode. Fed, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh,
I
it's
love
my
these
pleasure.
crossovers.
Absolutely, and actually, we will catch you tomorrow.
That's a fact. I'll be on Fed's
Federico
show.
Wants Watches.
Guys, we've heard you in the chat box. We may revert to Federico Talks watches. Let us know in the comments below this one. Do you want Federico Wants watches or revert to the classic title?
You know what? I like Wants. Yeah, let us know. But I like the current one.
We know Federico wants watches. That's no secret.
That's true. Touche.
Okay, so guys, thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe if you love our channel. I'm Tim. He's Federico. She's Faylene. This is Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on.
Take care.